Okay, so this is the start of the rose garden makeover. I'm trying to decide exactly what it's going to look like. So I've got these sticks down to plan the path. Part of the path right smack dab in the middle is this bird bath, so I'm going to need to dig a new space for that to go. We're going to have the path cross over and come right near this gate. We don't really use this gate that much, but it made the most sense. So that's what it looks like right now. And I just had my husband come in and get rid of all the weeds and chop them down. I'm going to leave this stuff here. The soil over here is not that great, so that organic material is going to be great to break down and help build the soil as we get these plants settled in. Right now I am digging this little patch out so that I can put the bird bath. It's really important for me that the bird baths are level so that the water stays in there very well. And I like to dig it down so that when it goes into the ground, it looks like it's been there for a while. I just think it makes it look better and like it belongs. So I've dug that down a little bit. That'll make it easier to level out. And then what I'm going to do next is start putting where I think the plants are going to go. So right now I've got the Japanese maple set. I don't know if that's where it's going to stay. I also don't know if this path is going to be quite as rigid as it is right now, and I may go find some larger logs. Eventually I think it's going to be filled with rocks and maybe some stone, just because we have these rocks around the property and then some other rocks that we can kind of throw in here that are in the way right now, so it'll be a good use of that extra material. You can see I also will probably have to move this little rose bush, which is fine because it's not really doing that well anyway. Okay, so I've just placed out all the plants and I've went back and made a couple of adjustments. I was sitting here looking at all of my tags to make sure I took into account how tall the plants were, how much sun they needed. The most sun this area gets about 6 hours, and that's on this side over here. And this side gets a decent amount of sun as well. I mean, clearly these rose bushes are doing just fine, so it must be enough for them. So I've got everything placed out, where it's going to go, and there's about 20 plants that I need to plant. It definitely won't be enough to be done with this area, but this is what I've got for now. So I'm going to get this set up, and then I will come back and tell you what everything is and where I planted it. Alright, I got all the plants in the ground. Had to get some help from my husband because this soil is horrible. So over here at the start of the path, you can see some dianthus and daylily, and there's the Japanese maple. Don't know what that is. Basil. There's some foxglove tucked back in that corner, and some up at the front. I know they're going to get big, but oh well. That's a stilby. And over here is a little bit more of the shady stuff. So Solomon seal. There's a blue hosta. Some stuff on this side. It's a heuchera. And then the path continues to the exit. And then you can see it from this way. So, got the bird bath moved, dug up one of the smaller rose bushes. Eventually the path is going to be filled with rocks, and hopefully everything survives. So the soil is really bad. We're about to hit June, which means it's going to need a lot of watering. But we'll see how it goes. So I was sitting right here in this blue chair, taking a break from planting everything in this rose garden, which I don't know if we can call it a rose garden anymore, but I was getting the last things in the ground, and I thought I hadn't shared an update on this space in a while. So I'm going to take a step back. You can see that we've got the rock pathway. It's almost full. We do need to add some more rocks to it. but this will be a great start for us. And these rocks were all buried in the ground right over here in this corner, and so I dug them up and cleaned them off and put them in the path. And I'll go through and show you what we have, but the main goals for this space is still to get it filled with plants. I've made a ton of progress over the past season, and I've just planted the last additions today. I may add a couple bulbs to the area. It just depends on how many I have left. So I'll be doing another video on the bulbs that I planted. Over here we have 3 dianthus, and this one here in the corner, it looks the best. They did bloom earlier this year. This is the first year that they've been in. Basically everything in this garden, this is the first season it's been in the ground, except for the rose bushes and except all of these really old azaleas over here. They are still blooming. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave them there permanently, but for now they will stay. Here we have a daylily, and this did bloom twice, so I guess this is one that keeps blooming all throughout the season, so that's pretty exciting. In this little pot I had a sunflower. Of course it's gone now. I forget exactly what that is, but it's back in another video. I planted that at the beginning of the season. We added this euonymus from the front yard. You can see it has dropped some leaves. There's some down there from the euonymus and some from the other plants. In my experience, these things are like really hard to kill, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. But it had to be removed from the front yard because that's the only sunny spot that I have, and I wanted to experiment with other things. Over here we have a rose bush. Back there is a lantana. I want to say it's Anne Marie or something like that. Right here is a pink monarda, I believe. Then we have our Japanese maple, which, you know, it got dried up early on in the season, and so it hasn't really bounced back from that. It is still alive. It looks like maybe these are some buds or something. I don't really know much about how Japanese maples grow, but so I think it'll be okay. It hasn't dropped too many leaves since it dried up a while ago. This, you can't really see it, but it was black and blue salvia, and it's completely died, and I don't know if it's just the right time for it to die or if it's completely dead, but I do see some little green sprouts back there, so hopefully it'll come back because black and blue salvia is really pretty, so I'll definitely have to buy some more if it doesn't make it. Right there is a pink echinacea, and it still has some blooms on it. I just put this in the ground today. It's been up near the back porch, so that still has some blooms on it. That's another pink echinacea right over there. And I do have sedum that was planted by the previous owner, and it is budding up right now. There's that lantana. I just love lantana. I'll show you. So pretty. I thought all lantanas were annuals in our area, but apparently, and I'm in zone 7, apparently some of them are perennials, and I believe I have 2 versions, that one and then I have an orange one, so we'll see what happens. This is either a stilby or a chantilly lace, I can't recall. It looks like possibly some new growth down at the bottom. Stems are still green, so hopefully it makes it through. This area was just a barren wasteland. There was all the ground pretty much looked like this. There weren't any plants in the ground except for roses. And the roses weren't even doing that great. Half of them have disease, so. This is the rose bush that we moved from the front yard. It did not bloom this year, but it still looks quite healthy, all things considered. This little guy never bloomed either, so I don't think it's in a spot with enough sun, so early spring I may move it to a different location. I forget the name of it. Here we have my loropetalum. It is dropping some leaves, probably due to inconsistent watering is going to be my first guess. I've got this all green heuchera over here. This is the first year I've planted heucheras. I started out with 2 purples, and I got this one that's almost solid green, and I have another one that's champagne kind of color. I'll show you in a moment. I forget the name of this one. It was here when we moved in. It gets tiny little yellow flowers, mid to late summer. Now here, and you'll actually see this several places throughout the yard at this point, these are massive hellebores that I traded someone 2 cuttings, or 2, in my mind they're like weeds, of my crepe myrtle in the front yard that was just taking over. And they gave me a ton of hellebores. So I have them all over the place. And I'm so excited because they're one of the earliest bloomers. They bloom in, I think people say January, February. So it'll be really exciting to have some extreme winter interest like that. Over here we get to the end of the pathway. We still got some extra stones piled up here that we need to do something with. So on the, what I call the right side of the pathway, all along this border right here is creeping phlox. And this used to be mixed up in the rocks that were all buried over here. And I dug up all the rocks, dug up the phlox, and moved it. Phlox, I don't know. So we'll see how that does. It will probably do fine. I think that stuff is like indestructible. Here is a Japanese painted fern. Just planted that today as well. I have some variety of solid green hosta here. Over here is the hydrangea, and if you've been following the channel, this is the hydrangea that was planted over next to the big tree, and it did not bloom all season. So I don't think it was getting quite enough light in that particular location. I think back here it'll get a little bit more dapple sun, and hopefully we'll see some more success with it. Here's a variegated liriope, and I actually have a non-variegated one over there somewhere, but it's not doing so well, and it basically just looks like the rest of the random tufts of grass, but oh well. So this is Solomon seal. This is my first year growing Solomon seal, and I had no idea that this happened in the fall. So it gets this really pretty yellow. It's a little dirty. No, the leaves are falling off, but really pretty yellow this time of year. I had no idea. It's kind of interesting to me because I planted this in the ground the spring. It didn't grow. It didn't do anything. It just sat there looking green and white, so variegated version. And now here in the fall, it's turning yellow and looking like death. So I'm just hoping and assuming that it comes back because I haven't done much research on it. Anyway, behind it is another hosta. That's just a green and white variety I just planted today. Over here we have another piece of Solomon seal. Right here, this is just the so beautiful sweet potato vine. It's my first year growing sweet potato vine, and what I'm going to do is take some cuttings of this and try and root it over the winter, so that way when the springtime comes around, I'll have some more sweet potato vine to spread out everywhere. I just absolutely love the look of this and the beautiful flowers. Nice light purple with a magenta center. Here we have some more hellebore. It's supposed to be a white or possibly a red variety, and they're all mixed up, so I have no idea what's what. I just hope that they bloom this year because it's one of my favorite plants. Right here is an astilbe that basically died all the way down to the ground and started coming back and is looking quite nice now. So I think the cooler air has helped, or just make sure to do a better job of watering. Let's see. Over here is another hosta that I just put into the ground, and then this really pretty heuchera. And these are annuals, marigolds and zinnias that I planted. They actually started out in a hanging basket like that. I don't know why I thought that would be a good idea for plants that get 3 feet tall. So I quickly took them out and put them in this space right here, and they've just been doing amazing. You can see the marigolds still have some blooms coming on. If I looked hard enough, I could probably find some for the zinnias as well. Yep. So we are mid-October at this point, and this thing is still going strong, so that's exciting. And we found these old pieces of wood as we were digging and planting different things, and so we've just used them as a little path right here up to our bird bath. Under this rose bush This is the massive rose bush here. Under this rose bush I have some geraniums, and this is my first year growing these geraniums. I have some wild geraniums around, and I got these. I traded a hosta, or 2 hostas, for this clump of geraniums, so they're just go all around here. I had heard that geraniums keep away insects, potentially Japanese beetles, so hopefully that's true and hopefully that works. Japanese beetles completely demolished this rose bush in about late July, or late June, early July, so we'll see how it goes. Either way, I like to have something kind of just on the bottom of this rose bush. I'm not really a fan of rose bushes, but I was, well, when we got the house, we had 14 rose bushes, I think, so I'm kind of stuck with them until they die, because I have a hard time just getting rid of plants that are doing okay. But anyway, just wanted to give you all an update on the rose garden. Maybe we'll call it the cottage garden, maybe we'll call it the path garden, the Burbath garden, I don't know, it needs a new name. But a lot of progress made in this garden this year, and I'm really excited about that. Instead of just looking like an empty nothing, there are tons of plants.